The words hung in the air like shattered glass. Your groom's not coming. For simple words that collapsed Eliza's world as she stood in her wedding dress, her father's trembling hand still on the zipper. If you're feeling that knot in your stomach already, stick with this story. I promise the journey is worth it. If this beginning touches your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more stories that explore the depths of human resilience. Eliza Matthews had always been the girl with the plan. At 32, she had meticulously crafted every detail of her life, her career as a pediatric surgeon, her modernist apartment overlooking the city park, and now, her perfect wedding to James, her boyfriend of 3 years. The venue had been booked 18 months in advance, the flowers specially imported, and her dress custom designed to complement her slender frame and auburn hair. On the morning of her wedding, Eliza woke with butterflies dancing in her stomach. The October sun filtered through the curtains of her childhood bedroom, where she had chosen to spend her last night as a single woman. Her mother had passed away 5 years earlier, but being in her parents' home made Eliza feel her presence somehow. Lizzie? You awake, sweetheart? Her father, Robert, knocked softly on the door. At 63, Robert Matthews still stood tall and strong, though grief had etched permanent lines around his eyes since losing his wife to cancer. Come in, Dad, Eliza called, sitting up in bed. Robert entered carrying a tray with tea and toast. Your favorite breakfast. Just like when you were little. You didn't have to do that, she smiled, but accepted the tray gratefully. It's not every day my only daughter gets married, he replied, his voice catching slightly. Your mother would have been so proud. Eliza felt the familiar pang whenever her mother was mentioned. I know. I keep thinking about how she should be here, helping me get ready. Robert sat on the edge of the bed. She is here, in her way. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. She wanted you to have this on your wedding day. Inside was a delicate sapphire pendant on a silver chain. Something blue, Robert explained. She bought it right after you were born. Said she knew someday you'd need it. Tears welled in Eliza's eyes as she fastened the necklace around her throat. The day proceeded in a whirlwind of activity. The makeup artist and hairstylist arrived, followed by her bridesmaids with champagne and nervous laughter. Through it all, Eliza kept checking her phone. James hadn't texted since the previous evening. He's probably just busy with the guys, her best friend and maid of honor, Tara, assured her. You know how men are on wedding days, useless until they're standing at the altar. Eliza nodded, but a small seed of worry had planted itself in her mind. By early afternoon, she stood in her childhood bedroom, finally stepping into her wedding dress, an elegant sheath of ivory silk with delicate lace overlay. Her father had been waiting outside, and she called him in to help with the zipper. You look just like her, Robert whispered as he carefully pulled the zipper up. So beautiful. Eliza smiled at their reflection in the full-length mirror. The moment felt perfect, until Robert's phone rang. He apologized and stepped into the hallway to answer it. Through the partially open door, Eliza could see his expression change from joy to confusion to something that looked terrifyingly like pity. When he returned, his face had gone pale. Dad? What is it? Eliza asked, her heart suddenly pounding. Robert took a deep breath and placed his hands gently on her shoulders. Sweetheart, that was James's best man, Mark. He paused, clearly struggling with what he needed to say next. What about Mark? Is James okay? Panic edged into her voice. Robert's eyes met hers in the mirror. James is fine, physically. But... He swallowed hard. Your groom's not coming, Lizzie. He's left a letter with Mark. He says he can't go through with it. The world seemed to tilt sideways. What? No. That's not, he wouldn't, Eliza stammered, turning to face her father. Call him. I need to talk to him. I tried. His phone is off. Robert's voice broke. "Mark says he took a flight this morning. To London. London. Where James's ex-girlfriend had moved last year." The realization hit Eliza like a physical blow. 200 guests are waiting," she whispered. "My patients took up a collection to buy us a honeymoon package. I have to be back at the hospital in 3 weeks. This can't be happening." Robert pulled his daughter into his arms as she began to shake. "I'm so sorry, baby. So sorry." The next hours passed in a blur of tears and humiliation. Tara took charge of notifying the guests while Robert cancelled what vendors he could. Eliza sat numbly on her bed, still in her wedding dress, unable to process the magnitude of what had happened. That evening, after everyone had gone, Robert brought her a cup of tea and sat beside her. "You know what I keep thinking about?" Eliza said, her voice hoarse from crying. "Mom. She never liked him. She would have seen this coming." Robert considered this. "Your mother was a good judge of character. But she also believed in second chances and new beginnings. There's no beginning after this, Dad. Just embarrassment and failure." "That's not true," Robert said firmly. "This isn't your failure, Lizzie. It's his. And as for beginnings..." He took her hand. "After your mother died, I thought my life was over. But each morning, the sun still rose, and eventually, I found reasons to get up and face the day. You'll find your reasons too." Eliza leaned against her father's shoulder, drawing strength from the man who had always been her rock. "I don't know how to start over at 32. One day at a time," he answered simply. "Just like I did." The weeks that followed were among the most difficult of Eliza's life. Returning wedding gifts. Canceling honeymoon plans. Facing colleagues who had attended what was supposed to be her wedding. James had sent one email, a cowardly apology explaining he'd reconnected with his ex during a conference and realized he'd made a mistake in proposing to Eliza. She deleted it without responding. Work became her sanctuary. Eliza threw herself into her role at the children's hospital, taking extra shifts and volunteering for the most challenging cases. If she was exhausted enough, she could fall asleep without thinking about James. 3 months after the non-wedding, Eliza was assigned a new patient, a 7-year-old boy named Leo who needed a complex heart procedure. His case was complicated by a rare blood disorder that made surgery extremely risky. "Dr. Matthews?" A deep voice interrupted her review of Leo's file. She looked up to see a tall man with kind eyes and worry etched across his features. "I'm Daniel Carter, Leo's father." "Mr. Carter, please sit down," Eliza gestured to the chair across from her desk. "I've been reviewing Leo's case. Can you help him?" Daniel asked directly, his voice steady despite the fear evident in his eyes. Eliza appreciated his straightforwardness. "Leo's condition is complex, but I believe we can perform the surgery successfully with proper preparation. I'd like to try a new approach that might reduce the risks associated with his blood disorder." Daniel nodded, absorbing the information. His mother would have asked 1,000 questions, he said with a sad smile. She was a nurse. Always wanted to understand every detail. "Was?" Eliza asked gently. "She died when Leo was 3. Car accident." His words were simple, but the pain behind them was familiar to Eliza. "I'm very sorry," she said, meaning it. "It must be difficult raising him alone." "Every day," Daniel admitted. "But every day with him is also a gift." He straightened in his chair. "Whatever you need to do for Leo, I trust you. Just save my boy." Over the next weeks, as they prepared Leo for surgery, Eliza came to know both father and son well. Leo was bright and brave, with his father's thoughtful eyes and a mischievous smile that belonged entirely to him. Daniel was devoted, spending every possible moment at the hospital despite running his own architectural firm. The surgery was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. The night before, Eliza found Daniel in the hospital cafeteria, staring into a cup of cold coffee. "You should get some rest." "Tell me about her," Eliza said, surprising herself with the request. Daniel's expression softened. Maria was extraordinary. Passionate about everything she did. She could light up a room just by walking into it. He smiled at the memory. She was also stubborn as hell and completely impatient. We balanced each other out. She sounds wonderful. She was. And losing her nearly destroyed me. His honesty was disarming. But Leo needed me, so I had to find a way forward. One day at a time? Eliza suggested. Exactly. Daniel looked at her curiously. You sound like you know something about loss. Eliza hesitated, then found herself telling him about her mother, and even briefly mentioning her cancelled wedding. She hadn't spoken about James to anyone outside her immediate circle. His loss, Daniel said simply when she finished. Though I understand the humiliation part. When Maria died, people looked at me with such pity. I hated it. Yes, Eliza agreed. The pity is almost worse than the pain. They talked until a nurse came to tell them visiting hours were ending. As they walked toward Leo's room, Daniel said, "Thank you, Dr. Matthews. For everything." "Eliza," she corrected. "And I haven't done anything yet." "You've given us hope," he replied. "That's not nothing." The surgery the next day was grueling, 9 hours of intense concentration. There were moments when Eliza feared they might lose Leo, but the boy's heart proved as strong as his spirit. When she finally emerged from the operating room, exhausted but triumphant, Daniel was waiting. "He's going to be okay," she told him, and watched as relief washed over his face. Daniel stepped forward and, without warning, pulled her into a tight embrace. "Thank you," he whispered against her hair. Eliza found herself returning the hug, drawing comfort from the contact. Leo's recovery was remarkable. Within weeks, he was showing significant improvement, his natural energy returning day by day. Eliza found herself looking forward to her rounds in his room, where Daniel was almost always present, reading to his son or helping him with schoolwork. On the day of Leo's discharge, Daniel handed Eliza a small package. "A thank you from both of us," he explained. Inside was a beautiful hand-drawn card from Leo and a small wooden box crafted by Daniel. The box contained a delicate wooden sculpture of hands, a larger one cradling a smaller one. "I carve when I'm anxious," Daniel explained, looking slightly embarrassed. "It helps me think." "It's beautiful," Eliza said, genuinely touched. "Thank you." "Actually," Daniel hesitated, "I was wondering if you might join us for dinner sometime. To celebrate Leo's recovery." He quickly added, "No pressure. I understand if that crosses a professional line." Eliza considered the invitation. Hospital policy discouraged personal relationships with patients' families, but Leo was officially discharged. And something about Daniel's straightforward manner appealed to her. "I'd like that," she found herself saying. Their first dinner was at Daniel's home, a warm, slightly chaotic house filled with Leo's artwork and Daniel's woodworking projects. Eliza was surprised by how comfortable she felt there, helping Leo set the table while Daniel finished cooking. "Dad's a really good cook," Leo informed her seriously. "He had to learn after Mom died because we were eating too much pizza." "Leo," Daniel warned from the kitchen. "Well, it's true," the boy shrugged. "You said doctors need to know the truth." Eliza laughed, charmed by Leo's directness. "He's right. The truth is important in medicine." "See, Dad?" Leo called triumphantly. Dinner was delicious, homemade lasagna and garlic bread. The conversation flowed easily, with Leo dominating much of it, eager to share his plans now that his heart was super strong. After Leo went to bed, Daniel and Eliza sat in the living room with glasses of wine. He's an amazing kid, Eliza said. He is, Daniel agreed. Though I can't take much credit. He was born that way. Don't sell yourself short. You've given him stability and love during incredibly difficult circumstances. That matters. Daniel studied her over his wine glass. Can I ask you something personal? Eliza nodded, curious. The wedding you mentioned, do you still think about him? The question caught her off guard. Less and less, she answered honestly. At first, I was devastated. Not just because he left, but because I'd been so wrong about him. I prided myself on being a good judge of character. We all make mistakes in love, Daniel said. I dated some truly terrible women before Maria. The worst part was feeling like I'd failed at something important, Eliza admitted. Like I'd missed some crucial deadline in life. Daniel leaned forward. Can I offer a perspective from someone a bit further down the road? Please. There are no deadlines. No correct timeline. Life happens in its own way, at its own pace. He set down his glass. After Maria died, I thought that was it for me. One great love per lifetime. But lately, I've been wondering if that's true. The air between them seemed to shift, charged with possibility. What changed your mind? Eliza asked softly. Daniel held her gaze. I met a brilliant surgeon who saved my son and somehow made me laugh during the worst week of my life since losing my wife. Eliza felt her cheeks warm. Daniel. Too much? He asked, looking suddenly uncertain. No, she smiled. Just unexpected. That evening marked the beginning of something neither of them had been looking for. They proceeded cautiously at first, dinner dates when Eliza wasn't on call, weekend outings with Leo that felt increasingly like family activities. Daniel respected her demanding schedule, never making her feel guilty about cancelled plans or late arrivals. 6 months into their relationship, as they walked through the park on a spring afternoon while Leo raced ahead on his bike, Daniel took Eliza's hand. I want you to know something, he said. I'm not trying to replace Maria. What we had was special and will always be part of me. I would never want you to forget her, Eliza assured him. She gave you Leo. But, Daniel continued, what I feel for you is equally real. Different, but just as meaningful. He stopped walking and turned to face her. I love you, Eliza. You've brought joy back into our lives in a way I never expected. Eliza felt tears spring to her eyes. I love you too. Both of you. The words came easily, naturally. Dad. Eliza. Watch this. Leo called, attempting a trick on his bike that made both adults wince before applauding his success. Later that night, after Leo was asleep, Daniel and Eliza sat on his back porch, looking at the stars. I've been thinking, Daniel said, his voice thoughtful. About what you told me, about your wedding day and your father having to tell you the groom wasn't coming. Eliza tensed slightly. They rarely discussed James anymore. I'm not bringing it up to upset you, Daniel assured her, taking her hand. But I want you to know something. If, and this is entirely hypothetical right now, if we ever reached that point, would never leave you standing there. I would show up early and probably annoy everyone by checking the time every 5 minutes. Eliza laughed softly, leaning against his shoulder. Good to know. I'm serious, he insisted. You deserve someone who chooses you every day, not just when it's convenient. Like you, she said. Like me, he agreed. For as long as you'll have me. A year later, on a crisp autumn day much like the one that should have been her wedding day, Eliza found herself once again in a white dress.